Anyway, what we are going to be talking is money, so we are not going to be much of idealism or changing society. I mean, we may, but for everything you need money. So it's all about money, honey, for this session. Tanya talked about, so that's Neeraj, that's Bobby, that's Billa, Bhandari, Dilip, Puri, right? All have dealt with money, all have dealt with money in education. So they know how it works. So we really have a panel which knows the secrets of how the money comes and where it goes and when it goes and when it comes, right? So what we thought is will be an open-ended thing. We obviously, they come from diverse set of experiences. We'll just get going and then let us talk, and then in fact, it could even be more than 5 minutes, because about money, there's no final word. No one has ever known, otherwise all of us would have been richer than what we are. So there's a lot to learn from each other, how there's money to be made, how there's money to be spent. So I think what we'll get going with is, why invest in education? In today's world, there are hundreds of other options, literally. You have certain money to be invested in now, whether it's your own money, whether it's investors' money, whether it's an institutional money, whether it's your friend's money. We are not going to get into that. What we are going to get into is, why invest in education? So, anyone, gentlemen. So, Dilip has been on the other side. Dilip has hired people most of his life, and now is preparing people to be hired. He's just founded a school of hospitality, where people post K-12 are going to be joining it mostly. Am I right? So it's very much what the business you guys are in is the business he is in. It's just that he's chosen that niche, and rather than as against the mainstream.
Can I just clarify that, Sunil? So, I'd like to probably use this opportunity to demystify hospitality education. It's not what I've seen most schools think, that this is hotel management and underpaid, overworked industry. I think we have to recognize that hospitality education graduates today, less than 40% of them actually go and work in hotels. If I look at the statistics of Ecol who are our partners in this business, 60% of graduates go into aviation, retail, luxury, private equity, banking. I mean, wherever there's customer service engagement required, that's where hospitality graduates go. So I just want to make that clear that this is not just hotel management.
Got it. So, Bobby and Neeraj have dealt directly with investment in education. So it would really be interesting to know your perspective. Why invest in education and not in something else?
Well, guys, so I think first and foremost, what you have to look at is what the definition of education is. So I've been actually struggling with this quite a bit, because if I look around in traditional education, if I was 17 years old, or if I have a son, there's no way I'm sending them to a regular college, okay? Because it's becoming more and more irrelevant, because it's a piece of paper. I cannot qualify it as a recruiter whether this kid actually went to college, how well he did, and actually there's no visible correlation for the most part in terms of performance in school versus what the performance at work would be. So I think, number one, it's very, very important to look at new structures, new models. For example, look at Iceland, look at the Nordics, right? So 10 years ago when they came out and said, hey, we're not going to do any more testing, for example, that was a very novel concept. And I was talking to Dilip also, and actually saying, hey, listen, sharing with me what he's going to be doing in terms of how he's going to be changing the format. So, as an investor, if I was to look at something, I want to look at something new. I want to look at new curriculums. I want to look at sports, as we were talking about earlier. Because today the problem is, education has been very functional in nature. It's not fundamental in nature. So one of the key things I'll be looking for is it fundamental? Is it applying a new format? Before we were talking about, you had a lawyer, then you had a banker, then you had a doctor. Now you actually are finding careers at the intersections or crossroads of these disciplines. So we have to start looking, and now it's even gone beyond the multidiscipline, which is people are figuring out new ways to make money, and I'll talk a little bit later about how the job and the recruitment and that industry is changing much faster than education is transforming.
Neeraj?
Investment, when we say investment, it has 2 or 3 fundamental principles. Is my money safe? Can I make more money? And is my money going to come back? Education, in our opinions, like earlier it was not having the kind of importance, or in terms of investment, which now it is getting. When we started as a school finance company, it's not that we discovered this financing activity, it's just that the bankers looked at schools in a different perspective. They were saying, is this a risky segment to invest in? Which, we started funding schools and colleges. Of course, the perception is that if you give money to somebody, is the money going to come back in case somebody is not paying? How are you going to enforce the security? With experience and the selection of the schools and colleges, yes, we have built a model around it, and now it's an industry. Financing is an industry in India, and looking at our success, there are a lot of companies which have started entering into the space. So I would say, as far as investment is concerned, in education, people have started looking at this avenue that earlier we gave a miss to this, but yes, now there are many things which we can do in investment. Earlier, traditionally, if you say people were investing in education from borrowing from family relatives, but now they are looking at avenues, whether it's equity, whether it's financing, new and new products, as Bobby said. New and new products are being designed to deliver education space. So I would say it's a lucrative business per se, but yes, selection has to be really good.
So, Billa, you work with Science Worldwide, investors worldwide, I would say, some those who have invested in education. What have been their reasons? You can tell us. You work in the Middle East, from my interaction with you, you work in the US, you work in the Indian market, you have clients here. So why aren't people investing in education? Or why should they, if there's a new client who comes to you and says, listen, I've done some hospitals, I've done some retail stores, do you think I should get into education because you know about education?
I hope none of those who are here are going to get offended. People get into education, those who want to put in a white cover after committing a crime. So it's a very lucrative business. I wouldn't ever invest in education in India, but I would invest in learning. If there are vacancies where people are actually teaching that you can learn, then certainly I'm open for that. But I haven't found a single vehicle yet. I mean, when you're talking about different brands, 900, campuses and all that stuff, we're not serving burgers. We're not building burgers, guys. We are crafting futures. How can you have 900 campuses and tell me you can maintain the quality? No, this is money-making issue. So people are investing in education simply to make multiples. If you want to invest, let me ask you, how many parents are here who have said, hey, kid, why don't you go become a teacher? Anybody? You don't want to teach your child to become a teacher. Then how can you say that we are investing in that future? If the quality of teachers is very low, can that business ever make money? And in a free education society where you have the right to education, how can you make money? Only through dubious means, right? You create trust and all this stuff. But why people invest in education outside? Because it's not education, it's learning. If you look at Finland, such a small country, you don't even have books. You don't have to take any books, any learning tools, because they teach you the real way, interaction, play, sports, you name it. Why then there's so much of investment going in countries like US and Europe? Because people begin to realize it is not the books, it is the experience of those faculty members who are doing high research in each of their specific areas, and they bring that into the institution, and where they create future leaders. And that's why they invest. Not in education, but in real learning.
Think of it in two different ways. There is the education business, and there's the business of education. I think we need to understand that distinction. To an earlier point, I think Bobby was making is that the education business needs to change, the models need to change, the perceptions need to change. Today it's not about teaching academic skills only, it's really about teaching life skills. In terms of the business of education, it is ironical, right? By our constitution, education is a not-for-profit business. But I think clearly there are very legal ways of making education a profitable business. And just to answer your question, if you're looking for an investment vehicle, it's right there, the Indian School of Hospitality.
I think now we'll spend a few minutes identifying between ourselves, amongst ourselves, what to invest in. Brick and mortar, Dilip, you did that. You do technology. Do you do technology with your clients? Edu, tech, or
yeah. So what we found is that
I mean, all of us just think of products think of things which what means education today.
So when we fund schools and colleges, what we have found is that these guys lack infrastructure. The way we define to schools and colleges, the first thing which a parent see or the kids see is buildings. And his first perception is created there. And once he enters, then faculty and then other thing. So and there is a lot of competition also which is coming. So if there is a best school or the good school next door, so this school has no choice left but to invest in his infrastructure. So when we are funding in infrastructure, so these guys come to us and they want to have additional building, I want to have next door land to be used as a playground, etc. Then we also fund technology, like when somebody says I want to have smart classes, etc. We fund that. If somebody is having say other requirements, curriculum, etc. and if he wants money, we also fund them. A lot of guys comes to us because it's very difficult to approach this school owner or principal. They're they're very busy guys, and I've told our vendors that they wait outside door like 3-4 hours. So
in the house. so I'm sure you know what he's talking about.
Yeah, so these guys, a lot of vendors, they come to us and they say, okay, can we have access to the schools through you? Can we sell our goods and services to them? So, there's a huge opportunities out there for vendors and for the investors, for the investment community in schooling, colleges, etc. It's a very good.
Yeah, what products and services?
So we're talking about investing in the education sector, right? So we've all been thinking about, from an investor standpoint, which is going to give me the most return, how am I going to make the most money, etc. Let's take a step back and how I would look at this valuation model. First and foremost, in order for that valuation model to work, that means the student is coming in and is ready to adopt the product, whatever that product and service is. But here's where the problem comes up. So today I come to your university, I don't know what it costs, let's say 2 lakhs a year. I spent 3 years, I finished my BBA, I don't get a job because I see the placement numbers going down. So now I'm now forced to take an MBA. So now I spent 5 years, I don't know, spent 10 to 15 lakhs. And now I go looking for a job. And there's no job, right? Initially, it used to be 10, you could get into the BPO industry, and thanks to good old Mr. Trump, that ain't happening. So, now people are not even getting those jobs. So, at the end of the day, I've spent 10 lakh rupees, and now I'm getting a 15,000, 20,000 rupee job. Then I have the other whole thing going on, which is artificial intelligence is coming in, big data analytics are coming in, 10 million jobs are going to be disrupted by 2020 because of automation, and I'm not getting a job, so why should I come and pay you to study? For a piece of paper? For the network? I don't know. So I think that's where, when I look at a valuation model or look at investing in a business called education, first and foremost, I have to see whether it's sustainable and will there be demand for it.
Any concrete suggestions, recommendations?
Change what you do, right? Stop the classes, literally, get into experiential-based training. Look at where the economy is going. I'll give you a very concrete example around the cryptocurrency. I don't know how many people are exposed to cryptocurrencies, bitcoins, have been hearing about it, ICOs, etc. So think about what's been happening today, right? So today, Facebook is the largest content company in the world. You create the content, they're worth $200 billion, right? And they own it, and they own the IP, and they own the intellectual property of the stuff that you have created. Now, with cryptocurrency and some of the models that I'm actually seeing, what you're seeing are social networks and other activities that you'll be doing on the social media, where when you're contributing, you're earning money, right? So today, why do I need to go to school? So for example, if I can just go do whatever crap I do, which is on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, I'm getting paid for it. Why do I need to go to school? Why do I need to pay you to educate me, to give me a piece of paper, which, by the way, the future employer cannot even qualify? So there are models that are changing, and people are going to start earning money in a different way. I think you initially said, Dilip, which is, hospitality and also a priesthood, right? These are a few things, being a chef and a priesthood, that I think still might require people, right? Other than that, things are evolving.
Dilip, what all did you consider? I mean, you must have started the project a long time ago, because it sounds very ambitious from what you've told me. So did you, right from day one, thought it's brick and mortar? You thought, can you do this technology? Can you do technology plus this? Can you do something else?
So, yeah, I wanted to do all of those things, but clearly, you want to start off by biting how much you can chew. So, I have a belief that setting up a fundamental, strong brick and mortar business, build the credibility of your brand, make sure you're able to deliver, then you move on to extending the education into online spaces, into more tech-based spaces. We absolutely intend to do all of that, but I think the first priority, if I take the example of ISP, which you'll all be familiar with, right? When ISP started back 15 years ago, if you saw the advertising, they had the big Kellogg, Wharton, LSC logos first, and then they had ISP below. Today you see an ISP ad, it's ISP and little tiny logos of these guys. So they spend that time and effort building up the credibility of their brand, and today they can pretty much do what they want to do. So I have that same belief as well, that you've got to start by something very foundational, I think, as you said, and just make sure that you're doing it differently. You're not doing different things, you're just trying to do things differently. I mean, the words pedagogy or curriculum, the words haven't changed in the last 50 years. It's the approach and the meaning of how we do them today which has changed, and I think that's what we're trying to do, where bring in an alternate methodology of learning, not teaching. Our institution's about learning. Absolutely, you said it right, it's not about teaching.
So, Billa, any recommendations? If I have 100 crores to be invested, what would you say? What should the pie be?
Give it to me. All right, we have a deal on the side. Okay, no, I think what I've understood in the Indian context in the last 2-3 months that I've spent here is that it's a herd mentality. My child goes to this school, my neighbor said, I'm going to make sure my child goes to your school. I go to so many markets and I see that there are 10, 15, 20 shops selling the same goddamn thing. How can you make money if all of you are competing for the same customer? And I bet you that one of those guys one day will have a need to put food on the table for his sick child or her sick child, and will sell the goods underpriced, undercutting everyone. He won't care what happened to the creditor. In a market like that, you've got to stop following the trends. Create your own destiny, create your own path. And how can you do that? If people who can step up, say, listen, I don't want to do a business where everybody's doing it. I want to do something different. And I was talking with one of the gentlemen here who was talking about sports. I mean, why don't you set up a sports academy? It is an ecosystem that you have to build. If you are doing hospitality, somebody's got to do perhaps sports, somebody's got to do something in online education where you can cross-train. Those kind of businesses, so technology-driven businesses, because today it's all about learning. Can I be in every place? Do I want to have immersive experience? How can I have immersive experience? Today if you go to some of the schools where they're teaching engineering, You ask them, what are you learning? They'll say C++. Okay, where your what compiler are you using? And you know what the answer is? Oh, we're doing it on a notebook. How can you learn a C programming language if you're writing the code on a notebook? Right? That's the state of affairs. So why not you invest in vehicles, labs, where you can actually teach children how to do research, how to create what they truly believe in. They can express their passion. That ecosystem is where I would invest.
One question to you, Neeraj, perhaps, specifically. Any sectoral level comparisons in terms of ROI? Does education bring any higher ROI than some of the other sectors which you might have compared, not compared? I'm sure you have them.
See, as far as education is concerned, initially, yes, everybody has to earn some money to get that level, but education and especially school colleges are such where once you have to spend the money and thereafter it's an annuity perpetuity business. So ROI, I would say, are very, very high. It depends what kind of student strength you have, in what phase of your life you are in this particular segment. Initially, the student strength is up to 500, etc. So what we are seeing is the expense level can be as high as 60%. But when it starts, student strength start going up, the expenses can be 35–40%. So, the only expense here is once you have building, etc., is the teacher's salary or professor's salary. So I would say more than 50%, I would say, in some of the cases.
Terrible. Bobby has done the right thing. Billa has done the right thing. Dilip, I'm the only one who's remained in media and not set up a school. I must probably do a media school. But Billa, you're saying, don't do another media school. There are many already there.
The point that you made, you just said something very specific. You got my attention. You said the only expense is the teachers. My friend, that's not an expense because you pay them the lowest money.
He's an investment banker.
That comes as expense. I mean, that school was to invest in research and development. They will not be making money. Trust me. Right? The return on investment in education institutions is 8 years.
So short term, invest in education, there's money to be made. Long term, do not invest in education. Okay? And there's a reason, it's what I'm saying again. I actually think the big internet is the great equalizer. Access is available, people are going to be smart, they're going to be getting into more self-directed models. And I'm making an extreme statement, but I think these self-directed models and the evolving community of what's required in terms of the skill is going to change significantly over the next 20 years. And I think it will no longer be a centralized activity.
Do you think, sorry,
can I answer? Please do. With due respect, Bobby, I don't agree with this. See, India is a different continent altogether, right? Many people who come from abroad, they come with some ideas, they say, we'll do this and we'll do that. When they face Indian public, their perception changes and they have to tweak their business model. In India, traditional, we can't replace book and chalk by technology. Yes, technology is a force enabler. But can we replace chalk and teacher? In my opinion, in the next 50 years, I don't see a scenario. We are funding a lot of technology. We have in our schools, I would say 70–80% of the schools, they will have these smart classes. But when we go and ask, do you use, the teachers may not have even ever used them, right? Now, it's not that. This is one side of the school. My son is also going, my daughter is also going to school, and they have these good smart classes, etc. So if I check, are they only learning through that? No. My brother is in Singapore, and there also, this teacher you can't replace. This particular aspect from teaching, it just not
responsible.
You see, putting gadgets in the classroom doesn't make classroom smart. What you need to do is make the teacher or facilitator smart who can adapt and adopt the technology to teach new ways. Then only the quality will increase, then only the margins will increase.
But what I'm saying is a course enabler.
Yeah.
You see, you are saying India is a country that cannot change. India can change if people want to change. If country like Bangladesh has empowered entire country with the power, why can't India do that? Right? Because we don't want to.
It's a perception that this is the best way to teach through technology, which people have different opinions. I'm of the strong opinion that technology cannot substitute teacher. It is a force name, I totally agree. But the technology can, but it is supplemented by a facilitator or teacher. That's all.
Yeah, so Dilip, I'm very curious to know, in case, you're okay to share, did you consider, like, why not, you've run hotels, you've run chains, why not a hotel or a chain of restaurants rather than education?
So as Bobby said, if you want to pick up the worst investment choice, invest in hotels. It's not a business to invest in.
Seriously?
Education.
That's what I was looking for, actually.
And to answer, the two contrary points of view there, I think what the internet has done is to take away the concept of learning by rote. That's what used to happen when you had to provide the content and the stats and the information to the student, which today is available off the internet. But to your point, Neeraj, indeed, I don't think you can take away the facilitator. And I'm not using the term teacher here deliberately. I think that's what teachers have to move to. They have to become facilitators to multiply the impact of what knowledge in the internet can do to students. I think that distinction is very important to make as well.